Hello everyone, I'm Unique Taram Daddy. Today we will look at Paginated Report visual in Power BI and use Power Automate visual to enhance some of the experience. So let's get started. What you see on the screen is the final view of it, which we are going to see as a final output. So if you see in this screen, we have a slicer on the left, wherein we can actually change the year slicer in this case to FY 2013, and what you would notice is the paginated report visual would actually render the report. On top of it, we could actually have Power Automate send this to an email as well as save it into a OneDrive location. And to trigger it, we just have to click on this button and you would see it would be triggered. So let's see how we can get started and create the similar view. So for that, I have a Power BI desktop in which I have the Zoom version installed. So you'll see June 2021 release include this visual called Paginated Report, which is still in preview. In order to use that, we can actually drag or put this visual like any other visual of Power BI. And initially, as you can see, it says connect to a report. If we click on connect to report, this is where you'd find that I have two reports, one called demo with option and one category profit. And I'll show you in a minute how those reports look like. But if we go back to the report visual itself, what you would see that the visual expect a parameter as well, which we can pass. Now, the end objective which I'm looking at here is whatever slicer value which we have here, as an example 2013 or 2012 in year, should be then passed to the paginated report, and the paginated report should also filter the data. So for that, I'm going to get my year slicer into the parameter area, and now I'll click on connect to report. In this, I have two reports, one which has the parameter as this one, which is demo with option. And if I click on set parameter now, what you would notice is all the parameters which I have in my report would be listed with whether I expect the default value to be passed or do you think we'll override a value. In this case, I'm going to override this date year, and if I select at this time, you'd see date.year, which is what we have passed as an argument. And the default value for it is picked from the report itself. Once if I'm done, I can click on see report, and at this time, let's see the preview of the report being shown to us. And I can actually drag it, adjust it to make sure I have it appropriately being set. This visual, like any other visual, also have a formatting property wherein we can enable the toolbar. And as you might notice, as soon as I enable the toolbar, this apply changes are prompted. And if I want that apply changes to be automated, I can select the second one, which is saying automatically apply the changes. And what this does is, as you can see with the name, auto apply filters would mean that if I have a selection being made over here, as an example, FY 2012, this FY 2012 is now getting passed as a slicer, and then it is getting passed as a filter to the paginated report, and the report is getting rendered. At this time, I think I'm good to publish it onto the Power BI service. And now I can click on publish. Here, I have to save it first, and then after making a save, I have to choose a premium capacity workspace. And it is just telling me that there is already an existing version. I'm going to replace it. Once it is done, I can switch to our V2 workspace and I can see my report. And if I open my report, I can see the same slicer. I can see the report visual, which is going to render here. At this time, I can actually click on edit just to make sure I can modify this report. As I was saying, what if I want to extend this capabilities by using the Power Automate visual, and I can get the Power Automate visual and place it for now, let's say here. And you'll see the Power Automate visual does tell us about all the steps which is required. As an example, first we have to add the data. This also has the Power Automate data. And then we have to set a Power Flow, apply and share, and then format our button accordingly. So let's see how I can follow all the steps. So if we start first, we can click on the three dot next to this visual and click on edit. And here what you would notice is the Power Automate would actually show up if I have already a flow created. But if I go back, you would also notice that this particular visual, like our Paginated Report visual, expect a parameter or we can use to pass a parameter. The idea is that the same selections which is being made by user should be passed here, and that report will then be exported using the API, and then it will be sent to OneDrive as well as email. So at this time, if I do the same task which we did before, which is if I drag here into the Power Automate data and then click on the edit, this would ensure that we have the year filter or the selection which the user made available here. To create a new flow, you can actually click on this new and then instant cloud row. The list of available template doesn't contain the ones which we want to achieve here. That's why we had to select instant cloud one. What you would notice is the first button which automatically get added is Power BI button clicked. This is how our flow will get triggered. So this is the initial step. If we click on the new step at this point, we can see all the list of connector and template. Here we can look for Power BI, and here you would see export to file for Paginated Report, which is still in preview. We can select that. Here we can specify which report we want, and you might have seen V2 workspaces where I have my report. So I can select the report and the desired output format in which I want the export to be done. If I scroll toward a little bit bottom, what you would notice is the parameter value name. This is the parameter name, and this parameter name is something which we have to specify. And the value would be what value this parameter will have. At this time, if I scroll down a bit, what you would notice is this Power BI data, which is year, which was getting passed. I can select that. As soon as I select, what you might have noticed is apply to age get invoked, and which means that for each value which is being selected in our selection into the slicer will get passed here as a loop, and this export would be used with all the different values. We could also see how we can, let's say, have one export and then have this data being into an array, but that may be for a different session. Here, if I know that there will be only one single selection, I'm fine even if it is applying for each um, type of loop. So once the export is done, the next action which we wanted to do was to, let's just save it onto OneDrive. So if I search for OneDrive, you'd see we have, or we can search for business, and you'll say OneDrive for business is the one which I was looking for, and I want to create a file. This time I can see this folder icon, which is saying which folder is the one where we want to save it. And this is using my credentials. And I can select the demo folder. Once I select the demo folder, it is next asking me what the file name would be. Now, since this file can be created by multiple users, I can actually name the file by having their username. Also, I could have the timestamp and also the year as a filter, and I can say that it will be a .pdf file. So this becomes your file name, and the file content will be the content which is produced by the export. At this time, I can also add another event to send an email, which is similar to the same steps which you have done. I think for demonstration, this should be fine. At this time, I can actually provide a name to this flow, and we can say instead of untitled, I want to call it, let's say, export test or export demo. And I can click on save. Once we save it, you might have noticed is if I click on this back arrow, you now find that this is basically showing me the flow itself. And it has this option of shared. You might remember that we have to, after creating the flow, we have to apply it to make sure this is the flow we want to get triggered. And we can also share it. When I click on share, at this point of time, you'd see with whom we can share it. And by default, it is also showing that there is embedded connection for OneDrive and for Power BI, and both of them are using my connections over here, or my credentials. This time I can look for any other user I'd like to share with. And once I'm done, I can actually go back to export. We can apply one more time, go back to the report. Once you go back to report, you can see it says run flow. This time I can actually customize the button. I can make it a little smaller to fit this screen. We can also go to its formatting property, and in the button we can change this to, let's say, export and save. And now I think I'm all good, and I can now test it. So I can select FY 2013, and you can see it is exporting at this, or it is rendering in this Paginated Report visual, and at this time I can click on export and trigger. Let's say it is triggering. While it is triggered, you can also see that the Paginated Report visual also allowed to export it. So let's say interactively, if user want to download it, we can also click on PDF from here, and he can download it as well on his local browser session. And we can see how that would work. If I click on it, it does give us this message saying, hey, this may take a bit. But once it is done, you can see it actually shows the Paginated Report. Now, if we go back to checking the status of it, one could be, could probably go into the folder and see if there are any files or not. And if we suspect that this, let's say, flow might have failed, we could go to, let's say, flow.microsoft.com, and we can sign in. And here we can click on My Flows. And if I click on Shared with Me, this is where you would see Export Demo. It says that it succeeded a minute. It took 1 minute and 9 seconds. So we can probably go into demo folder and we can see the files is created, and you can see the naming convention is the username, the timestamp, and the parameter. If I click on the file itself, you can see the file showing up. So that's about it. That was a quick demo I wanted to show you, and how do we use Power Automate as well as the Paginated Report wizard. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe. Thank you.